What is up, guys, and welcome back to Mental Recode, episode number 3. In the last episode, we talked about how you can reclaim the present and why being in the present is so important. One of the final exercises I gave you was to write down all the kind of things that come back to your mind that really remove you from the present. And generally, those things that come to mind are things from the past. So in today's video, I want to teach you how you can unchain yourself from the past and truly unlock new speeds previously not even imaginable. So when we talk about, unchaining yourself, what does a chain even mean? Generally, chain means immobility. You're really tied to something. So, and I think one of the big mistakes that happens all the time, when we talk about motivation, because we see motivation everywhere in the entrepreneurship space, right? So you go on Instagram, you see all these motivational quotes. Maybe you hear a motivational speaker, maybe you hear, some podcasts, and what they will do is they will motivate you. The problem with that is essentially like it wakes you up, it gets you going, and maybe you start walking, but all of a sudden, that chain that's tied to your leg or to your arm shows resistance. You pull back. So the motivation itself, unless, and you probably notice if you're motivational junkie, everything goes great. Perhaps you go to Tony Robbins seminar and you're super pumped, you're gonna change your life and everything, and it all works until the old habits kick in, until those old programs, those old paradigms basically pull you back, and like a chain that's tied to your ankle, all of a sudden, like you're trying to run, but it keeps holding you back. So what we really need to do is, while motivation is great, while motivation gets us going, gets us moving, we really need to find a way to break those chains so that when we actually have motivation, when we that we can run freely, that we can make it to whole new levels, whole new heights, and really accomplish new speeds. So in order to break the chains of the past, we have to recode our inner programs and make the hindering programs positive programs that move us towards the future. So this can be done really in two ways. The first and easier way is to simply repull and change our old programs, where we take them from the negative and move them into the positive. So essentially, you're changing the subconscious habits from something that's hindering you to something that's pushing you forward. And secondly, this is the more advanced level, and the much more, this is the ultimate goal that you should strive for, is to have that kind of level of presence where you don't rely on having positive subconscious programs, but much rather you actively decide consciously, you consciously basically set programs in action as you're living life. That way, you're not driven by the subconscious, you're not driven by something that's basically subsurface, but really you're just living life in the present. But till then, we can make those changes within ourselves so that our subconscious is actually, doing things in our favor. Because for most of us, we live perhaps 70 to 80% of our lives subconsciously. So why not reprogram the subconscious to be more or less a fighter for our cause? So how do we do that? How do we, reprogram our minds? How do we, break the chains of the past? This seems a very foreign concept to most people because very few of us ever consider the thought that we could recode our inner programs, right? So it seems far-fetched, but it is a very simple step-by-step process, so to say. What we first have to do is identify all these different areas where, these chains that are tied to our ankles are locked in the past. And those sources can come in 3 different forms. One of them is incomplete tasks. So that could be, for example, maybe that book that you always meant to write but you never finished, or if you're a musician or an artist, maybe that album that you never made, but it's always the top of your mind. It always says, I wanted to do that. Or perhaps, winning a certain tournament or trying out a sport, whatever it is. There's one of the biggest things that holds us in the past is a lot of the goals we set for ourselves, but never follow through on. And more often than not, it's in fact that we set ourselves a lot of very lofty goals, but they are not followed through with any action at all. So you find 2 types of these kind of unfinished processes, which is one, the ones that are actually accomplishable, in which case the only way to truly unchain yourself is to finish them, right? If you've been talking about doing something for, let's say, years, then now's the time for you to really finish it up. And you will feel, if you've ever completed a big project, you will know the kind of energy release that you feel as soon as you complete this big project. All of a sudden you've got, like, you would think that, oh, after the project you're all exhausted and like, oh, you're ready for a break. But for all the times in my past, when I finish a big project, I've got all this energy, I'm like, you know what, let's do the next thing. And the second type of the incomplete action cycle would be things that are actually far out of your reach. Perhaps you set some really far-fetched goal that really doesn't make much sense, that maybe is not based on reality, where you have to ask yourself, why did I initially want to do it in the first place? So you can solve this. You can unchain yourself either, I guess, physically through completing the task, or intellectually, if you actually go through it and question, why did I want it in the first place? What was the outcome that I sought? Perhaps, some people say, hey, I want to be a rock star. They probably don't want to do it for the music. They want to do it because they like the fame, they like the stage, they like the girls and all that kind of stuff. So you have to ask yourself, like, if that was the motivation, maybe I didn't really want to be a rock star. Maybe I wanted these outcomes. So how else can you get, I guess, the rock star lifestyle without actually having to be a rock star? And all of a sudden you're moving from something that's really far-fetched outside of your reality to something that can actually happen. And you can fulfill it, and it no longer is that lingering fantasy that's just in the back of your head. Because if it is something that you truly want, why not go after it and remove it from the back of your head to something that you're actually living? The second most common source of karmic chains that really hold you in the past are open conflicts. You see, all too often in our lives, we have conflicts with other people that are important to us, but we do not resolve them. So whether that's, a sibling rivalry, or maybe an argument with your lifelong best friend that all of a sudden falls apart, to perhaps some disagreement with your parents that, kept you from talking to them for decades. So many times in our lives, we let small things turn to way bigger things, and more than likely out of pride and ego. So we might be thinking that, look, by not surrendering, so to say, by not compromising, by waiting for them to come to us to apologize, to basically settle the conflict, we think that we're hurting them. We think that we're in the superior. But the truth is, as long as you keep thinking about it, as long as maybe one of those thoughts still comes to your mind, as we mentioned when we talked about presence, then that's still real. Then that still affects you. So it is in your best interest to resolve those conflicts, even if you might think, that they're in the wrong, that they should be coming to you apologizing. Because what resolving conflict is all about really is to confront. You want to have that conversation, say like, this is how I feel, this is how I see it, this is why I think things went the way they did. And oftentimes, when both people just have that open dialogue where you can say like, hey, this is how I really feel, most people realize that there was just a level of miscommunication. They're like, oh, I never knew that you felt that way. I never knew that, that was your intention, that was your motivation. Because so many times we basically project things into the world that aren't there. So we oftentimes think that people are a lot more evil than they really are. We always think that they have like really bad intentions, that everyone's out for us, but really, probably not. They probably meant half the things that you think they did. And it's really in your interest to resolve those conflicts, because that is one of the biggest sources that really holds you back, where you think, and you notice especially when a conflict is fresh. When a conflict is fresh, when you just had an argument, it's probably in your mind the whole day, and you can't stop thinking about it. So when that's the case, you really should the same day pick up the phone, meet them in person, and address it. Don't let it simmer more and more in your body, where it's then becomes like an underlying disdain, or an underlying problem where it then affects how you interact with them in the future. So get that stuff done as it happens, and if there's some old stuff that you never tackled, tackle it now. So as one of the exercises for this video, so for the first thing, make a list of maybe 3 items that you have not completed, that keep coming back up in your mind, and make it your goal to finish them in let's say the next 3 to 12 months. And then as for the open conflicts, perhaps write down 3 conflicts that you've had, whether they're with girlfriends or parents or siblings or friends or teachers, you name it, and address them. And really, this is the uncomfortable part of the mental recode. The thing is, it will have amazing results for you, but at the same time, it will be very, very uncomfortable. Because most people like to avoid conflict as much as they can, but it's in your interest to really say, hey, mom, dad, or hey, girlfriend, whatever, I want to sit down. I've got some things on my mind. Let's talk, right? And you will feel so much better once it's done. And basically, as I mentioned, I think in the last episode, once you do it, it kind of disappears. All right, the third and final source of these karmic chains that hold you in the past are oftentimes emotional experiences. So whether there was a painful breakup, maybe you losing that big tournament that you were so wanting to win, or that award, or perhaps something much more intense, maybe like, a parent leaving you at an early age, maybe a death in the family, or something as extreme, a sexual assault. Emotional experience, they can range a far array, and for some people, something that might seem minuscule to others has a big meaning. So, they are different for everyone else, but the only way to really tackle them, since it doesn't go as much about confrontation, it's a lot more about really redefining what it means to you. So it is almost about finding meaning in why it happened, right? So perhaps, let's give the breakup example, since that probably relates to the most amount of people. Almost everybody had like some kind of painful breakup, right? And this can either keep coming back up, right? And like, it's not just that everybody went through it once, like everybody goes through it multiple times. And you either let yourself get drawn down by it, and you keep thinking of why it didn't work out. Or you can look for the reasons of, why is this a great thing? Why, how is my future going to be better because of this? And also, for example, how is my present better because of this? Meaning, with any relationship, and I would say with literally every single one of them, you always grow. You always learn. Even if the partner was not meant for life, you always grow as a person. You gain something from it. You become perhaps a better person. At the very least, you learn. And beyond that, you had good memories. So it's like, when you live in the present, it doesn't matter that you're basically letting go of the past memories, because when we have these breakups, we kind of get so nostalgic that we're like, oh, now all these experiences we had, they're only memories, and you're kind of trying to hold on to the past. But it's okay to let go of the past. It's kind of like, I think there's a healthy sense of appreciating the past, just looking, seeing memories and smile at them, that was cool. But you should always be more excited about the present and the future. And so when it comes to these emotional experiences, what I would really put to heart is that you write. So we already had, using 3 examples for each. Write down 3, experiences that you had that kind of affected you, and that kind of always come back to mind, that you see are really, and with all these 3 different, I guess, segments, what you want to look for beyond the things that come to mind. Maybe not many things come to your mind, but much rather try to find things out of these categories that define your daily habits, that define your characteristics. So perhaps, maybe somebody says, I am a shy person. And you ask yourself, okay, why am I a shy person? Maybe there was some experience that you made in elementary school or middle school or something. If that was the starting point where you could ask yourself, when did I become a shy person? Because, kids, they aren't born shy, they become shy over time. So for you, the goal really is, if you want to redefine, recode yourself, is identify what experiences shaped you this way. And almost all the time, it will be one of those 3 things: emotional experience, open conflict, or an unfinished action cycle. So, and the last ones are the more powerful ones. Emotional experiences, very hard for most people to overcome, but it truly has to come from the self-aware state and sense of finding meaning and purpose in everything. And one of the great books on that is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. He was a Holocaust survivor who also we know was a psychologist, and he literally lived through the Holocaust and lived in all the different worst concentration camps. And what he said is that really you could tell when a man was going to die, let's say in the next couple hours or days, is when he gave up the will to live. Right, when he stopped having a purpose. So for Viktor Frankl, for example, he always thought of his wife. He always, he had certain things that kept him going. And he also, throughout the book, he says that you try to find meaning, you try to find purpose in this craziness. So we might think with big problems yes, breakups suck and everything, sure. But at the same time, this guy, he made it through the Holocaust, and he found meaning in it. He found purpose in it. So I think that is the ultimate goal, the ultimate level of self-awareness you can get to. And once you're able to basically unchain yourself from all these different experiences that have shaped us throughout our lives. Because here's the thing, you want to shape your own life. You don't want your life to be shaped by experiences that you have no control over. So take your control back. Take a very close look and inventory of your life. See what were the experiences that shaped you. And if you don't like them, then you can change them. It's really in your hands. Because I truly don't believe that, we are basically the result of our circumstances, but really that we define our circumstances. And then even if our circumstances sucked in the beginning, then we can redefine them and change them. So for this week, write down 3 things that you really, for your whole life, you always want to do, never done. Start them, finish them. You'll feel so much better. You'll get a new sense of energy. Find at least 3 different conflicts with people that you've been just pushing away for way too long and never really tackled it when you know you should have. And lastly, find 3 emotional experiences that you've made that really redefined you, reshaped you, and tackle it starting today. Okay guys, I hope you found this valuable. Leave a comment below. Let me know how you liked it, how it worked out for you. And perhaps maybe you can also leave a comment maybe 2 weeks later, maybe leave a comment right now saying that you're committing to doing it, and then follow up with me in 2 weeks, leave a reply to your own comment saying, hey, I did it, this is how it worked out for me. All right guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. I'm ready to see you next week. Until then, have a good one. Take care.